All right, guys. So I've just come back from a day of just really doing some basic stuff. So I've helped a lot of clients with just their normal leash walk, and mostly it's just come down to how they're holding their leash. So if you haven't been here before, my name is Kristen from Salty Pack, and really I'm just going to try and break down and give people a few options for leash handling. So why is leash handling going to help out your leash walking? It's going to give a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you're holding your leash, but also giving a little bit of a chance to make sure that we're doing better timing with our dog and give them a little bit more space and freedom. You're probably here because you have a few issues walking with your dog. I wouldn't assume that most people who are doing great with their dog are watching this video. So you're probably here because you have some issues on that leash walk that we want to be able to tidy up. So a lot of it comes down to us at the other end of the leash, just being able to give that timing and feedback, and to do so, leash handling is a major part of that. So I have my fake dog here as the chair, and then we're gonna use my 13-year-old Border Collie potentially later on with a little demo, just so we can see it in slow motion while we're moving, just with a very slow dog. So the reason that I want to try first on my fake dog is because oftentimes I'm out with clients and we're working on some of our leash handling, but still the dog is at the end of the leash. So this is something that you can start immediately just at home, and I would prefer you not to even use your dog while you're starting to practice some of this leash handling. So I've got my dog all clipped up on here on my collar, and then we have our dog here. So most of the time when I ask people how they hold their leash, again, you're like, people are calling me out because they probably have some issues with their dog. Usually it's this like super tight death grip, right? Because we've got a little bit of PTSD. Maybe our dog is reactive, or they're super poly, or they're really strong. We've had an incident with them. So most of the time people immediately go to something that is just so tight and constricted and doesn't give you a lot of flexibility while you're handling your leash. So what I automatically, again, first thing that I change for people mostly is going to be how we handle the leash. So it's easy to do on a chair because otherwise it just kind of dangles around, the leash does, while we're doing a little bit of the handling stuff. So good to have on a chair so that we have something that's a little bit stable that kind of feels like our dog as well too. If you've got a really small dog and you have extra like little spots that you can put on the ground, make it very realistic for you. So this is roughly where Bear is going to sit for me. So the first thing that I do for my leash handling that I change for people is I usually have I just call it a thumb grip. So it involves making sure that the leash is all handled around my thumb. What that does is give me a really nice tight grip. That leash is not going anywhere. It's not ruining any of my, it's not going to break my thumb or anything like that. Some people do like to do it on different fingers, and I'll show you those variations, and we'll break it down really slowly. I'm right-handed for whatever reason. This feels better for me for setting it up most of the time when I'm explaining to people on my right hand, but if you're left-handed, I can show you that as well too. So the first thing that I do, and I'll show you two different ways on both hands. The first way is if you take like a backwards L with your hand, and you have the end of the leash with the loop just hanging down. So if we just did this and folded our hand over, the dog now gets the entire length of the leash. In some cases, not an issue at all. If we don't have reactivity, maybe we're going for a safari walk and you're like, hey man, just do whatever you want to do. Maybe having the full length of the leash is fine. But most of the time when we're going out for a walk, if I give dogs the entire length of the leash, they're just going to be water skiing me down the street. So in order to give the nice timely feedback that I want to give them, I'm going to make another loop. So if this is my dog eventually, this is the amount of leash that they can have as sort of this radius that I'm okay with. It might be different for you. Me being a shorter person, there's not going to be very much in between the dog and where my hand is because I am already closer to the ground and closer to my dog. If you are a very tall person, your second loop that you're going to be making, that you're okay with that radius, might be with a little bit more leash there, if that makes sense, because you are further away from the dog. So there's no exact science, but I'm usually kind of like okay with around this sort of radius that the dog is away from me. So the reason that I mention that is because now if the dog starts pulling away from me, this is going to be my timely feedback that I'll always be able to give them. So when I break that down, backwards L, then I'm going to find that secondary loop with the distance that I'm okay with that radius of the dog being away from me. So with that secondary loop, that backwards L just comes down here. So now we have 2 loops on our thumb, which for most people, again, I have pretty small hands. This is still pretty comfortable for me. From there, you almost just bring your wrist down. So your wrist is then just gonna come down here and you're gonna grab all of that leash. Baby. He's also deaf as well too. So both of the loops with the backwards L, your wrist rolls down and you grab all of that leash. So again, my dog is attached to here, and if they start pulling me, really you can almost give yourself like a little bit of a test run. That's super, super stable for you, right? So that's your first one. Another way that people prefer to look at it is as if you're coming in for a handshake for somebody. So you're gonna have your hand kind of out like this. The end of the leash goes just on that thumb still. Find your radius that you're okay with. Bring that secondary loop under, and then you just grab it all. So the second way to do it is really just taking out the step of the backwards L and then folding your wrist down. All that we're doing here is with that sort of handshake, we're just grabbing that other loop, bringing it in, and then being able to pull it together. If you are left-handed, I can be ambidextrous here, you'll have a regular capital L. Find that radius, about right there. Secondary loop, that it comes in, pop onto your thumb, and then it folds down and you grab everything. Again, same strong loop here. Or you can go in for that handshake. That'd be very awkward to shake with your left hand. Have the end of the leash on the handshake thumb. Find the end of the radius that you're okay with the loop, and then bringing it down there. Now, the reason that I really like this is because even if it's on my left-hand side, say the dog is walking nicely on my left-hand side and I want to give them a reward, generally I tell my clients, all right, so when you're ready to reward them, put the leash in your right hand, reward with your left, and then you can keep moving with the dog in your left hand. So that exchange of the leash is so much easier with that grip rather than the death grip, right? Whatever we're doing over here is just too much. There's too much that we need to change over. So again, how you can change over with your grip, yep, all of those, is with that kind of handshake grip, you can just go back and forth. So let's see if I can get it a little bit closer. Sorry, Bibber. Let me get you out of the way here, bud. So with that little handshake grip almost, your thumb is just going to come in, grab all of that leash. When you're ready, just change it over. It grabs all of that leash, and then you take it over. So this, for a lot of people, takes quite a long time just to get that muscle memory of going from the left and then going back to the right. And this is why I think it's really important to practice on a fake dog so that while we're out trying to practice, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do that grip as we go for a walk, but it's the very first time that you're doing it. It's gonna be a lot for the dog. It's gonna be a lot for you because probably your dog still is having some issues, and that's why we're here, right? So practice on your fake dog first and just going back and forth. You can do this in front of the TV, but it should be really easy for you. Then you can start to practice a little bit later. I like to use the environment for dogs to be able to have a sniff as part of their reward system. Sometimes rewards come from me, but sometimes they come away from me as well too. In that case, with this grip, makes it really easy to be flexible again of, hey, go off and have a sniff. Even if you're using a long leash, you can still do this same grip as well too. So say we're off for a walk, I've got my fake dog here, and there's a little bush that they want to go sniff. I'm just gonna give them a little bit of space by going backwards. I can say, have a sniff, and then let that leash go all the way out, and I still have that thumb grip from the back. So if they're sniffing around, I can kind of follow them. I can even put in my right hand if they're off to that side. I can come back over this way. They're sniffing that bush. And then we go, all right, Fido, let's go. And then we bring back in, and we've got that radius that we're kind of keeping them into as well. Have a sniff. You can let that leash go. Fido, let's go. Bring that leash back in and have your thumb grip, right? So then that's the next thing that you can practice, is the letting out and then coming back in. So you can make a loop anywhere you want. Maybe Fido gets a little bit more space here. You can do that secondary loop just right there for you. I'm not even gonna bring up another option. So practice that coming in and out, left hand, and you can even practice with the right hand as well too. Just letting it feed out and then letting it feed back in. Much easier to do on a fake dog. Then if we start to practice on our real dog, hello, my baby. So for most of you guys, again, you're probably here because you have a young, very excitable dog. Kudos to you. But we can practice this on a, if I show you on the slow moving dog, hopefully then it'll apply to your fast moving dog. So even if you have them on a leash, you can just practice this even in like the front before you actually leave. That when they're kind of moving around, I wanted him to move a little bit more, is you can practice having those little bits of movement. Let's see if we can get him moving. There we go, baby, nice. And then I can bring it back over onto the right. And so you're now practicing moving and changing your hands with you as well too. He's a good demo dog, but he's probably not gonna do as much as we need. That's a big session for you, bud. So the whole point is then you can start to practice the changes of your hand while you're moving, but that's still at home so that you're not out and about and fumbling around with everything. When we get really good and your dog is maybe in the applicable state that we can use food, maybe they don't get too aroused with food and they have some sort of food drive that we can use food in this nice motivating way essentially, where you would then be able to add in having that food hand. Just put my fake dog back. I'll just put it back on you. Sorry, Bear. So where food comes into play then is when you're going for a walk, you're doing so great with your dog because you're you're making sure that the timely feedback that they're getting is exactly at the right time, no matter what sort of radius that they're out of. But if we want them to, they can have a sniff as well too. So once we've gotten to that nice stage and we're really trying to up our training and make it so that this area here is super motivating for them, when you're ready to, you'd be able to then swap your hand over. So give your marker word, good job, like good dog, good, yes, whatever your marker is. And then you'd be able to switch over your hand, then reward with the left if you're walking your dog on your left-hand side. And then you just pop that leash back into your left hand. So that makes it super easy to reward them on the side that they are walking next to you, rather than having to come across here. So when you get really good at swapping back and forth, dogs on your left-hand side, you've got that nice thumb grip, give your marker word, then be able to switch over your hand, grab your piece of food, reward so that they stay nice and in line on your left-hand side, whichever side you're walking on. You're back into your walk, so you can switch it back over to the left-hand side, give them those little taps if you need to. Timely feedback, good job. Switch it over, reward, left hand, and then you're back over into that left-hand side. So hopefully just changing the grip of how you hold your leash is gonna be super helpful for you. Again, first, I really encourage everybody to try it on your fake dog. Try it then walking around with your real dog, maybe out in the backyard, so that they're kind of slower moving. Again, most dogs, if you're probably here, it's because when you go outside, it's like next level excitement. So we don't want to be practicing in that state. We want to practice at a little bit of a lower state, try in the backyard, just try it with your moving dog. If you're feeling comfortable, try adding in some food, make this area super motivating for your dog to be in, and then see if you can take it out for your walk with you. So hopefully that was helpful. That's one of the biggest things that I change with people, and one of the most drastic changes that once we do it, it makes it much easier to give that feedback on a walk with your dog, and it makes it much easier for us to be able to be a bit more flexible with our handling as well too. If this is something that you like seeing and want to see more of maybe Bear, just let me know in the comments. If this has helped you at all, make sure that you let me know as well too. You can like and rate and whatever, do all those things. But thank you very much for watching the video. Hope to see you guys next time.